In today's episode, we'll be walking down the memory lane of an interesting gentleman who has been so generous to share his time off of his holiday with us to speak about his return to Sri Lanka after almost half a century. And we are going to speak to him about what he has seen, what he has experienced, and what he has felt in this holiday, returning home after 50 years. Is Patrick.
My name is Joss Patrick Fernando. I was born in Velavatta. I went to St. Peter's College in Bamlapita, which I'm very proud of. I went to England in 1975. It's the country of my mother, because my grandparents are from England and my father's from Sri Lanka. So I always wanted to see where my mother came from. Of course, she was born in Sri Lanka, but I'm retired now, and here I am enjoying my retirement in Sri Lanka.
What are some of the drastic changes that you see from 40 years ago to now?
It's quite different, as I've always told everyone. They ask me a similar question. The buildings have changed. I can see there's more wealth in the country. Of course, quite a lot of the roads and places I don't recognize, because it certainly has got much better. The only thing that has not changed are the people. The people are exactly as they were 51 years ago when I lived in Sri Lanka. Simple, cheerful, always happy, very welcoming, and very hospitable, which is difficult to find in any other part of the world. I would say the Sri Lankan race is a very unique race, which I have traveled to many countries abroad, and I've never had this warmth and welcoming attitude from people when you visit a country.
One of the other obvious questions that our audiences might wonder is also as to why did you not visit for 40 years?
I suppose I was very involved in my career in England. I wanted to explore other countries and visit other countries, and you get into a comfortable, what we would say, comfortable rut. You're happy where you are, you're comfortable where you are, and you think, oh, I don't want to travel so far away, because England, as we all know, you can travel to any country within a few minutes from London. It's so accessible to go to different countries in Europe. And that was my aim, to cover all of Europe, obviously America. And I thought, right, one day I will go to Sri Lanka. And here I am now. And I wish I had come to Sri Lanka many years before and not left it so long. I wish I had come 10 years ago, 20 years ago, not now at this age of what I am now.
Do you feel that Sri Lanka has things to offer only to the youth or only to adventure seekers, or is there a bit of everything for everybody?
There is so much that Sri Lanka can offer. There is. You have so much of talent in Sri Lanka, which I have seen on this visit, which I probably didn't recognize when I was here, 51 years ago. Now I see the talent. I have met so many people showing me the arts and the crafts and the things they have done, and it is absolutely amazing. It's beyond international standards, and I think Sri Lanka has moved a higher level than expected, more than other countries in the developing world, most definitely.
You're an accountant by profession.
By profession, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about those details. Where did you work, and then after St. Peter's, how did your life translate into being an accountant?
I started my accountancy studies in Sri Lanka. I did SEMA, and my first exam I took in Sri Lanka. And then I continued my studies in England. Of course, I worked and I studied at the same time in England. And then, of course, I qualified and became an accountant in a company there. And I was in different companies. I worked at about 4 different companies. And then I retired, of course. After that, I don't want to look at any accountancy books. I wouldn't mind looking at a bank balance. That's about all I look at, and nothing else really. But I enjoyed my life as an accountant. I don't know why I became an accountant. Maybe my parents, as all parents tell you in Sri Lanka, I either have to be an accountant, a doctor, or a lawyer. Those are the three main professions that your parents want you to hold in Sri Lanka at that time. So obviously, I went into the accountancy trade. I would have preferred personally to have been a chef because I
Right.
love cooking. That's my extra hobby now in England. I love to make cakes. I spend a lot of my time in the kitchen and a lot of my time in the garden. And these two activities really relax me. I don't have any stress because my mind is always, I don't know if it would say creative, but I like to keep my mind occupied. I never sit down for 5 minutes. I know my parents used to say, you have ants in your pants. Even as a kid, I was like that, very active, and nothing's changed. I always want to do something because my father always told me, never waste a minute in your life. You'll never get that minute again. And that's instilled in my mind. And I'm till the moment I get up in the morning, till the time I go to bed, I'm always doing something. Even when I'm watching television, I don't just sit down and watch television. I will be either painting or making things with my fingers, and my friends say, can't you relax for a few minutes? And I don't, unfortunately.
Let's talk a little bit about like your heritage, like, your parents, your grandfather, maternal grandfather.
My grandparents, they came from England, and many years ago they went to, my grandfather bought this estate. It was called Kalugalathena Estate in Verlagama. I think it was in the region of about 200 acres. And of course, my mother, including her brothers and sisters, all the siblings were born on the estate in Kandy. There were 14 in the family. My grandfather came from a very aristocratic family because his origins were from the island of Guernsey, which is the Channel Islands belonging to Britain. And there's a fort and a beach named after my grandfather's surname, the Le Marchand family. So when obviously the family came across Britain, and my grandfather was in Britain. So when I went to England and I had to prove that my mother was of English origin to the immigration authorities there, I had to find all these documents of marriage certificates, birth certificates, etc. And I did a lot of research for one whole year, and I discovered that my heritage, my grandparents' pedigree, was registered in the College of Arms. Now, the College of Arms apparently is the most prestigious place to have your pedigree registered. You have to be an aristocrat to have your name registered in the College of Arms. So the last named person was my grandfather.
Your maternal grandfather.
Yes, my maternal grandfather. So I went to the College of Arms. I proved to them that I am of descent. I was able to register my mother there, her name and my name onto the list. My ancestors, there was my great, 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 great grandfather, whatever. I'm a descendant of this
The Martian
the
family.
Martian family. And his name was Gaspard Le Marchand. He fought in the Battle of Salamanca. Salamanca is in Spain. He fought in the Battle of Salamanca. When he took a loan from King George III, I think, and he founded Sandhurst, which is the army college in Britain. It's the biggest, it's the world famous army college in Britain, Sandhurst, where the British Army
Trains.
trains. Also, when Lord Louis Mountbatten came with his tailor to Sri Lanka, just before, I think it was during the war time, he brought this young gentleman as his personal tailor. And they were based in Kandy. And at the same time, my mother's sister was also based in the naval office in Kandy. And of course, this young English gentleman, he saw my mother's sister and fell in love with her. He got married to her. And of course, he took her off to England with Lord Louis Mountbatten when the war finished. And of course, then Lord Louis Mountbatten said, look, Mr. White, his name was Edward Watson. He said, I would want you to be the royal tailor to Prince Charles. He was Prince Charles at the time, the Duke of Edinburgh, and Prince Andrew, etc. So Mr. Watson was then the personal tailor of the royal family on the men's side. He became the managing director of a company called Hawes and Curtis Limited in Savile Row. Hawes and Curtis were then taken over by a company called Turnbull and Asser, and they were the shirt makers to the royal family. So, and of course, Mr. Watson received a royal warrant from Buckingham Palace. So did Turnbull and Asser. They held their own royal warrants. So now the company had two royal warrants. Moving down the line, Turnbull and Asser was then bought over by Mohammed Al Fayed, as we all know, who was then the chairman of Harrods. So then, of course, all the royal warrants became part of Harrods, and Mr. Mohammed Al Fayed, he always wanted to acquire these beautiful big establishments in Britain like Turnbull and Asser, Kurt Geiger, House of Fraser. These are all the big names that were in England, and he was a very good chairman to all these companies. It was nice working in that circle to be able to meet all these people as well. The company Turnbull and Asser was not just for the royal family, it was for anyone who's who. It could be from James Bond down to anyone, from prime ministers to presidents all over the world, including President Reagan. They all wanted to buy their clothes from Turnbull and Asser. It was so important for them to buy something made in Britain, made in England, and especially that it was a branded garment with a royal warrant. I know today we have so many designer labels attached to everything that we buy in the world, but this was a unique designer label, if you want to call it like that, because it had the royal warrant, and it was so important to the Americans. They wanted something like this attached to it, and there we are. So I have met
Few names of that
few
such caliber.
celebrities of
Okay.
that, yes, of that nature, and I would like to say that lots of the garments used for the James Bond films came
Right.
from this company, and I'm proud
Right.
to say I worked for that company. There was also on one occasion when Frank Sinatra came, I think it was his last concert in England. He stayed at the Savoy Hotel, and he bought all his garments, his shirts from Turnbull and Asser.
How long were you there for?
I worked in Turnbull and Asser for about 15 to 20 years. So I enjoyed every minute of my working life there, because when I got home, at that time I was living with my sister in England. And every time I got home, it was lovely to tell them, guess who came to Turnbull and Asser today? It was either James Bond, it was either the Australian Prime Minister or President Reagan or someone. It was so nice to be able to mention these names, even though I didn't serve them, but I happened to be around when they were there, and it was nice to see these.
To see that.
I'd see them, including Princess Diana. She used to come in quite often. She came once. I think she bought, it was, I think, for her brother, Lord Spencer. He's now a lord. And she wanted to buy him a shirt for Lord Spencer, and she came in. Very ordinary, simple person. This is, I think it had took place between her engagement and wedding. And she just came in with her bodyguard, walked in there, she bought a shirt, and they walked out. Simple as that. No airs and graces. She was a very humble person.
This trip, what else did you manage to experience from Sri Lanka?
Oh my God, where do I start?
Let's start from the day that you touched down.
Well, from the day I touched down, I was in tears, obviously, to see my country again. And on this occasion, the weather has been so kind to me, very kind, except one evening when it rained heavily. It was lovely to see the fork lightning, which we don't get much in England. You see beautiful fork lightning here. Of course, I loved going into all the shops. I loved seeing the shopping malls in Sri Lanka, there in Colombo. And of course, the Christmas lights are beyond anyone's description. I will tell everybody, you have to go to Sri Lanka during Christmas and New Year to see beautiful Christmas lights. So tastefully, so beautifully done. And I know we talk about Christmas lights in London, in Regent Street and the streets we have over there. They do it beautifully there. But this is breathtaking. It's a feast for your eyes. That said, you also experience all the lovely boutique shops. You see all the street vendors, all the lovely things they sell. I tried so many of the little tasty dishes that you get in Sri Lanka, which I've never tasted for 50 years. I haven't tasted, and I think it brings back so many lovely memories to me to be able to eat all the food that you have here.
Do you think this boom that we're experiencing right now, being Lonely Planet's top destination to travel and globally the best destination for beaches, having the most pristine beaches in the world, do you think this is going to stand for long and we are going to sustain this? And do you think, is there anything that we could do better in terms of that?
Most definitely. This is a paradise island. It's the pearl of the East. That's why it's the shape of a pearl. And it has to maintain that. I think the Sri Lanka Tourist Board has to invest a bit more in its to promote Sri Lanka to the world. I get this feeling you're not promoting the country enough. In England, we see so many adverts of all other countries. It probably is very expensive to have an advertisement on British TV and say your next visit should be Sri Lanka. I notice now lots of countries in Poland and Croatia, there's lots of adverts on the British television. Your next destination should be this. We never have seen Sri Lanka being promoted to that extent, which is needed, I think. You got the climate, you got the hotels, you got the perfect staff, you got the beautiful people who are so welcoming, which is very difficult to find in a lot of countries. I know in other Southeast Asian countries, they're just as nice as in Sri Lanka. But I think the Sri Lankan people go that much further. There's something there that you don't experience anywhere else.
Sure.
And the country I have discovered since I was here, it's clean. It's really clean. I've seen lots of people who've been to other countries and they say Sri Lanka is much cleaner than the countries I've been to. There's still more to be done in Sri Lanka.
If somebody to invest something in Sri Lanka, what would that area be in terms of tourism? If you're looking at from an investment perspective, like, you really think this has a lot of potential?
I mean, I have traveled over the last 51 years. I try to take at least 2 or 3 holidays a year going abroad, be it Spain, France, the Canary Islands, Portugal. And I see how they invest in their tourism. Obviously, those countries don't need much investment because they are well established. They've already been there. You get to the stage now in Sri Lanka, I discovered that Sri Lanka has invested a lot in its tourism. You've got lots of foreign tours coming over here. You get TUI and various tourist groups coming to Sri Lanka. You have your tours organized here to go to various parts of the island. You have all the transport facilities. I think one thing that maybe could be invested here is probably the railways, where people love to travel by train from A to B and see the beauty of the island, because it's very picturesque to travel in public transport in a country. That's how it's no good taking tours and going and organized tours is not, you don't meet the real people in the country. When you travel by public transport and you do it on your own, you are very interactive with the local people. Maybe, as I said, the railways and maybe more buses, nice buses, and investment in buses could be an area to be addressed, because everything else has been addressed, I see here. You have the beautiful hotels, you have the beautiful food, you have the restaurants, you have cafes, you have clubs, you have discos. You got everything that we all have in the Western world. The only thing that you are slightly behind, I would say, is definitely public transport. Everyone says, oh, you've got to go to New Relia, to Kandy, to Ella and various places. But I suppose the most comfortable way is to go in a coach or to get your own driver and take you there, which is nice as well. But it is also so important to travel by public transport, as I said. That is a fact that should be addressed. I do that a lot when I go abroad, because that's the only way I can meet the people and talk to people next to me on the train and where are you from, and interact with them. And they love that you're a tourist. Oh, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to see, what have you seen? And it's a discovery of the island, of the country you have visited. And I'm sure in your travels and you've been abroad, you have discovered it yourself that this is
Sure.
a fact that needs to be addressed.
We wish you good health
Thank
and
you
we
very
wish
much.
you a beautiful year ahead as well.
Thank you. And it won't be another 40 years before I come to Sri Lanka.
Hopefully not.
Thank you very much indeed.